In 1979, a man named Carl was heading home from work in Wrangell, Alaska. He was driving his truck when suddenly, the truck of his friends in front of him got lifted into the sky. Their truck fell on his, and he got out to check up on them. Just then, he spotted a UFO flying overhead, and he made a run for it. As he was running in the jungle, he noticed that the UFO was right above him. A beam came out of the UFO, which started lifting him off the ground and rendering his body completely stiff. In the present day, a young man named Isaac Cypress arrives at a NASA jet propulsion laboratory where he works. He and his friend Beck are playing a little game where Beck uses NASA satellites to send out a signal, and Isaac has to find it. He finds the signal very easily, but Beck says that's not the signal he sent out. They discover that this signal has been sent out from somewhere in Canada, but it's curious because there are no registered grounded satellites there. Later at night, as Isaac is working and his computer receives a signal from an unknown source in space, it contains a lot of random code. Isaac is curious about it. Next, Isaac's therapist advises him to start keeping a video diary, so he starts taking his camera everywhere with him. One day, as Isaac is making a video diary after a hike, a meteor comes crashing down near where he is sitting. Fighter jets arrive and sirens go off in the distance. Isaac figures out that the entire region is about to be sealed off to the public. He hides in the bushes so that the authorities can't catch him and throw him out. He makes his way toward where the meteor crashed, and when he gets there, he spots a UFO. Isaac turns on his camera to record the UFO, but just then, it vanishes into thin air. Isaac turns around to find that an alien is standing behind him. As discreetly as possible, Isaac presses the record button on his camera. The alien stares at Isaac for a few moments and then walks away. After the alien leaves, Isaac makes a run for it, but midway through his run, he blacks out. 3 days later, he wakes up in a completely different location. He checks his camera and finds that he still has the footage of the alien and also of himself getting lifted off the ground. There is a strange mark on his arm. Isaac comes home and sits on his bed, contemplating. He looks at his TV and it disappears right in front of his eyes. He extends his hand where the TV was and finds that his hand is going through some sort of invisible barrier, as if to another dimension. He focuses a bit on the spot and the TV returns. Isaac realizes that he is the one that caused the TV to disappear. He repeats the experiment with his camera to confirm. Isaac goes to a doctor and gets his arm x-rayed. The results show that his arm bone was fractured, but it's strange because the fracture is a perfectly straight line. It's as if someone cut his bone with a knife. Isaac arrives at work and shows Beck his ability to make objects disappear into other dimensions. However, it turns out that only Isaac can see that the objects have moved to other dimensions. Beck cannot see it. Isaac shows Beck the footage of the alien and he is shocked. Isaac says they should show the footage to their other coworker as well, but Beck doesn't think it's a good idea. Frustrated, Isaac arrives home and uploads the footage to the internet with the caption, "Alien abduction footage." The next morning, Isaac is woken up by a call from a news anchor who wants to do a story on the video he has uploaded. Isaac quickly checks the video and finds that it has received almost 1 million views overnight. He checks the comments section and finds that people have mixed opinions about it. Some believe it to be real, and others claim that the footage is fake. Throughout the day, Isaac keeps getting calls from news agencies and magazines asking him to show up for an interview. Finally, he caves and decides to show up on one news channel. During the interview, Isaac shows the footage and explains the entire story of his abduction. He thinks this will help get the truth out to people, but the interviewer mocks Isaac. She says that it's a little too convenient that Isaac happened to have a camera when an alien encountered him. Over the next few days, Isaac's story spreads all over the media. Half the people support him and half claim he's faking the whole thing for attention. Over time, more and more people start believing that he's faking. Meanwhile, Isaac goes online and starts looking at articles about abduction stories. He finds that the stories of other people are very similar to his own. He finds one particular girl named Sarah and messages her to set up a meeting. Sarah and Isaac meet up and he explains to her that alien encounters have been happening on Earth for a long time now. There are depictions of them in historical paintings, and several scientists have claimed to receive mysterious signals from space as well. Sarah asks Isaac if he knows about the alien abduction of 1979 in Wrangell, Alaska. Isaac replies that he doesn't. She tells him that a man named Carl was abducted, and after he decided to go public with the story, he went missing. Isaac decides to send copies of his footage to online websites that ask people to report abductions. As he is depositing them in the mailbox, a man named Keith arrives to help him. Keith says he is a writer, and he thinks it's unfair how the media is bashing Isaac. He says he wants to do a story where Isaac gets to explain his side in detail. Isaac thinks about Keith's offer overnight, and the next morning, he decides to go through with it. He arrives at Keith's office, and Keith suggests that the best way to make Isaac's story legit is by having him take a lie detector test. Isaac agrees, and Keith shows Isaac how to put on the lie detector equipment. After Isaac answers all the questions about his abduction and none of his answers turn out to be lies, Keith's expressions become stressed. He goes out of the office unexplained, and when Isaac follows him, he sees two men dressed like agents coming down the hallway. Isaac tries to run from them, but they shoot him, and he gets knocked out. Isaac wakes up and finds himself being dragged by two androids. The androids drag him into a white room and tie him to a chair. Outside, he sees that Sarah is also being dragged away. At this facility, on a screen in front of Isaac, he is greeted by Keith, whose real name is Agent Graves. He informs Isaac that they are going to assess his level of exposure. Different objects are brought in front of Isaac, and he is told to focus on them, but nothing happens, as he does. Finally, Isaac stops cooperating and he demands to know where he and Sarah are. Graves asks Isaac if he knows where Carl is, and Isaac lies that he doesn't know anything about Carl. Isaac then breaks out of his chair and fights off the androids to escape. As he is running away, he spots Sarah in a room and he somehow manages to open the door using his mind. Sarah and Isaac run away as androids shoot at them. They manage to make it out of the facility and they discover that they are currently in Costa Rica. Graves gives his men an order to follow them, as they will probably try to look for Carl and lead them to him. Isaac says that if he can just gain access to the internet, he will probably be able to find Carl, whom he desperately wants to speak to. A local woman in a restaurant directs them to go meet a man named Zed, who can get them access to the internet. The two meet Zed, who is an expert hacker and techie. Just then, the androids arrive looking for them, so they have to leave. Zed takes them to his house in the jungle, where he has an untraceable internet connection. Zed uses all his hacking skills, but is unable to find any trace of Carl on the internet or in government records. Isaac remembers the curious signal that he and Beck found going out of Canada. They hack into NASA servers and trace the origin of the curious signal. This way, they discover Carl's location. And Zed says there is a working laptop in his house that can be called. Zed makes a video call, and at first Carl rejects it. But Zed hacks into his laptop, and Isaac immediately explains his abduction story before Carl can shut the laptop down. Isaac says that he sent a copy of Carl's signal out into space and got a response the same night. Carl demands to see the response, and Isaac sends it to him. Carl decrypts the random code in the response and plays it in audio. An alien voice speaks, and it gives a time and location of arrival. They'll be coming 5 days later to the location of Carl's house. After this, Carl abruptly shuts his computer down. Isaac says they have to go to Carl's house. Sarah is hesitant, but Zed excitedly asks if he can join. Zed uses his contacts in Costa Rica and gets them a private plane to fly to Canada. Meanwhile, Graves has placed trackers in Sarah and Isaac and has been following them this whole time. After a long journey, Zed, Sarah, and Isaac arrive at Carl's place. He's suspicious of them at first, but then he welcomes them into his home. He explains that after his abduction, he was also taken by the International Space Research Program but escaped and went into hiding. He has spent 20 years trying to contact the aliens again. He's worked tirelessly to create programs that translate alien codes into audio and the audio into the English language. So now when the aliens will arrive, he has a way to speak to them. Over the next 2 days, as they wait for the aliens, Sarah and Isaac spend time together around the woods and bond with each other, while Zed curiously explores Carl's equipment. On the day that the aliens are to arrive, Isaac feels the ground moving. Carl says it's because the aliens are near, and Isaac goes out into the woods to find them. Sure enough, he spots them and asks them what they want. Next, they all sit down with the aliens, with Carl's translation device turned on. The aliens say that they have completely conquered medicine, physics, technology, and all science. Now, they search for something greater. They search for the origin of the universe. Isaac asks why they are studying humans. Then the aliens reply that humans have a particular aura in them that can be measured. The aliens show Isaac a vision of Jesus and ask who this man is. Isaac asks why they want to know about him. The aliens reply that he seems to be central to the origin of the universe. There is a connection between him and the aura inside humans. Sarah asks why there were marks on her and Isaac's arms. The alien pulls out a device that splits her arm clean, and a tracker comes out. The aliens place the tracker in them for their records. Just then, Graves and his men arrive outside and demand that Carl come out. It is revealed that Graves has a personal vendetta against Carl because when Carl was abducted, the truck in front of him had Graves's father in it. Graves demands to know why his father was never found, and Carl doesn't have an answer. Graves has his men shoot Carl. Sarah rushes to check on Carl and is shot too. The alien tells Isaac to focus and use his senses. He does so, and the entire house is transported to a different dimension. He manages to bring everyone into the other dimension, away from Graves and his men. The aliens then use their powers to heal Sarah and Carl. They all walk right past Graves and escape in the alien UFO. 6 months later, Isaac and Sarah have started a normal life on an island far away. They are a couple now. Meanwhile, Zed and Carl have started their own underground tech agency. Graves has been fired from the International Space Research Program due to his unlawful actions at Carl's house, and Isaac continues to make video diaries regularly.